Hello, class. Today we will be reading and learning about Siddhartha Gautama's life and how he became the Buddha. This is the story of Buddhism. 16.2 Prince Siddhartha's birth. Prince Siddhartha was born about 563 BCE in the northern part of India, near the Himalayan mountains. His father, Suddhodana, was a powerful king. His mother was the beautiful Queen Maya. One night, before her son was born, the queen had a dream. In the dream, she was carried high over the Himalayas to a silver mountain and set on a silver couch. A white elephant with 6 tusks walked around her and then struck her right side. The king and queen asked the Brahmins, Hindu priests, to explain her dream. "You are carrying a child who will be a great man," they told the queen. The Brahmins declared that the prince's future held 2 possible paths. As a prince, he could rule the universe, but if he left royal life to see the suffering in the world, he would become a Buddha, one who is enlightened. The queen gave birth to Prince Siddhartha in a garden. Stories say that after the prince's birth, a soft, warm rain of heavenly flowers fell on the baby and his mother. The infant prince looked a few years old and could already walk and talk. Siddhartha began his remarkable life by taking a few steps and declaring, "I am the leader of the world and the guide to the world." And here's Prince Siddhartha right there. 16.3 The Prince's Royal Life. Sadly, a few days after the prince's birth, the queen died. Prince Siddhartha's father wanted his son to be a great and powerful ruler, and he was worried about the Brahmins' predictions. If the prince saw the world suffering, he might give up his royal duties to seek a spiritual path. The king decided to protect his son from all the horrors of the world. He raised the prince in a world of perfect wealth and beauty. He provided his son with only the finest gardens, houses, education, and food. Servants took care of the prince's every need, from washing his clothes to playing music for his amusement. And here, this is the prince learning learning archery. The prince enjoyed his easy life, yet he always felt curious about the world outside the palace walls. Some days he would sit under a rose apple tree and think about the world beyond his reach. At the age of 16, Prince Siddhartha married a beautiful young noblewoman named Yasodhara. The wedding feast lasted 7 days and 7 nights. For 12 years, the couple lived together in perfect peace, enjoying the prince's many palaces. When Siddhartha turned 29, they had a son. 16.4 The prince discovers 3 forms of suffering. After Siddhartha became a father, the king gave him more freedom to travel outside the royal palaces. During his trips, the prince discovered 3 forms of suffering. On his first trip, the prince and his chariot driver saw a thin man who walked with the aid of a stick. "Why does that man look so terrible?" the prince asked. The driver replied that the man was old. He told the prince that everyone's body weakens as it ages. On the second trip, the prince and his driver saw a man crying out in pain. "What is the matter with that poor man?" the prince asked. The driver explained that the man was sick. On the third trip, the prince saw a group of people walking slowly down the road. The group carried a figure wrapped in white cloth. "Death came for that man," Siddhartha's driver said quietly. "One day it will come for you too." The prince was deeply troubled by his discovery of aging, sickness, and death. Unable to sit at home with his thoughts, he set out a 4th time. This time he met a man who glowed with inner peace and calm. The man was an ascetic. An ascetic is someone who gives up worldly pleasures, such as possessions, fine clothes, money, and even shelter. "How can you sit so peacefully when there is so much suffering around you?" the prince asked the man. The ascetic replied, "To be free of suffering, one must give up desires, pleasures, and comforts of the world. I find peace by helping others find peace." 16.5 The prince becomes an ascetic. Prince Siddhartha's experiences with suffering changed him forever. Suddenly his royal life seemed empty. He wanted to find the happiness and peace the ascetic had found, and so he left his family in search of it. The prince asked his faithful driver to take him to the forest one night. At the edge of the dark wood, Siddhartha removed his royal robes, sandals, and jewels. He cut off his hair with a knife. He put on a simple robe and kept only a small bowl for alms, or gifts of food. Wishing his driver farewell, Siddhartha began his life as an ascetic. Siddhartha met other ascetics as he wandered the forests and fields. Like him, they wanted to understand the nature of the world. They believed they could reach enlightenment through meditation. While meditating, the ascetics sat quietly and focused their minds on spiritual questions. Siddhartha quickly became an expert at meditation. The ascetics also denied their bodies many basic needs. For example, they stayed up all night without sleeping. They sat in the hot sun without shelter. They held their breath for long periods of time. They also fasted or stopped eating for many days at a time. They hoped to find spiritual truth through self denial. Siddhartha followed the way of the ascetics until he was pitifully thin from lack of food. Legends say that he became so skinny that he could touch his stomach and feel his backbone. Eventually, he became unhappy with this extreme way of living, and he had not yet found the key to enlightenment. 16.6 The Prince Becomes the Buddha. Siddhartha had learned that giving up bodily pleasures did not bring enlightenment. He decided to balance himself between the extremes of pleasure and pain. He would be neither a prince nor an ascetic. Instead, he would seek a middle way as a path to enlightenment. So he is accepting food from this young woman, because before that, he was living an ascetic and depriving himself of basic human needs. The prince's new way of thinking caused the other ascetics to leave him, but he was content to be alone. He was not yet enlightened, but he was on the right path. A full moon rose on Siddhartha's 35th birthday, and he bathed in the river and rested quietly in a grove of trees. When he awoke, he had a strong feeling that he would soon become enlightened. Then a grass cutter gave him 8 handfuls of soft grass as a present. Siddhartha walked until he reached a tree that became known as the Bodhi enlightenment tree. He placed the grass at the foot of the tree and sat down. He vowed to meditate under the tree until he reached enlightenment. While Siddhartha meditated, a wicked god Mara tried to frighten him. Then Mara tried to tempt him by sending his 3 daughters discontent, unhappiness, delight, and desire. Siddhartha resisted them all. He meditated through the night about the nature of reality and how to reach nirvana, or true happiness and peace. As the night went on, his mind filled with the truths he had been seeking. He saw his past lives and the great cycle of rebirth. He saw the importance of karma. Eventually, he saw how to gain freedom from the endless cycle and end all suffering. By morning, the young prince had become the Buddha, the awakened one. He had reached enlightenment. The truths that the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree are the basis of Buddhism. They are often called the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha would spend the rest of his life sharing these truths with the people of India. The end.